What up? What up? What up? What's going on, everybody? Ryan the Mighty Quinn here, the cornerman underscore MMA. A little more MMA story time, looking back on some things that throughout my career. And, I was talking about Jorge Masvidal last week or a couple weeks ago. Everyone thought that was really cool. This is another story that sticks with me throughout Robbie Lawler's title run, training with Robbie through all that. Now, Robbie, being part of Robbie's title run was probably the most special thing to me in my career outside of anything personally involved with me, like any of my personal wins or accomplishments, whatever, what have you. Probably Robbie, and then being there when American Top Team uh, won the house, not the overall show, for the Ultimate Fighter. That was cool too. But yeah, let's talk about Robbie. So I remember Robbie came down to American Top Team. I had been there for 2 years at the time, and he came down in 2012. It was shortly after the UFC had acquired Strikeforce, so Robbie was one of the fighters they acquired to come over. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't pay attention to any of that. I was in and out with Bellator, and I wasn't sure what was going on. I was focusing on me. So I'm in the gym one day, walk in, and I remember it was actually like January, like after the holidays, and I remember being like, Robbie Lawler's there, and I was like, oh shit, Robbie's here, cool. And I look around, there's a couple other new faces. I remember Tim Sylvia was there, and a lot of the Monty Cox guys had come down to train at American Top Team. But I was like, oh cool, Robbie's here, and they go, yeah, he's training here for the Koscheck fight. And I go, Koscheck? I was like, wait, oh, the UFC took him up. Is Koscheck moving up to 185? And they said, no, Robbie's coming down. I was like, oh, Robbie's coming down to welterweight. Wow, that was I think that's going to be good for him. And I remember speaking with his boxing coach, and they were saying how he was at 185 because it was working, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it was the right thing to do. He could have been at 175. He should have been. So now he is. And so I was training a lot with Robbie in that fight because I can jab and shoot double legs a la Josh Koscheck. Now, I remember Robbie was brought in as, an opponent for Josh. He was, at the time, Robbie's just an exciting fighter, a good acquisition for the welterweight division. Uh, George St. Pierre was still the champion at that time. And I think Koscheck was one or two fights removed from fighting George St. Pierre. I could be wrong. He did have the injury to the eye. But anyway, I remember training with Robbie, and I remember Robbie's a very, as much as we know he's ruthless, he's actually an extremely great training partner. He's very safe. He knows when and when not to take his shots when we're sparring. I remember my first time sparring with Robbie. I thought I was going to shit a patty because here I am, we're in the cage, and I'm on the other side of Robbie Lawler. And thinking of it now, I'm getting goosebumps. But so yeah, he's very controlled, and I remember I got a takedown. I was like, oh shit, I just took down Robbie, all right, and and he really liked to see like how it happened, how to avoid it, almost like he let it in, like he let the takedown happen, and went through that with his rounds. And then, he tried to really, he really knew how to piece it together. And basically, he was saving his energy, saving that ruthlessness for fight time. So then the Josh Koscheck fight happens, and he's knocks him out in the first round, and it was brutal. He just had that front headlock with the chin popped and just hit. Robbie, like I always said, Robbie knows how to make blue collar fighting look beautiful, and that's what he did there. So that was the Koscheck fight. And then I didn't really train with him for the Volkman fight. Did strength and conditioning with him, but I was, you don't need me for striking anyway. But then that Volkman fight happened, and Volkman should have never been in the cage with Robbie. So then we go forward a little bit. I do a little cage wrestling with him for the Rory McDonald fight, and fight goes his way. That was this is the Rory one, and now the buzz is getting behind Robbie about, he's a contender now, and I remember this is when GSP late leaves, and they do the vacant belt with him and Koscheck. I think I'm missing a fight in there too. I'm pretty sure I'm missing a fight in there. But and I remember our wrestling coach, Cami Barzini, goes to me. He goes, hey, Quinn, we're going to need you wrestling against the cage. and I was like, he got the title fight. I was so pumped. Oh, so excited. So you got to keep in mind at this time, this is American Top Team 11 years ago. We had not had a UFC champion yet, and just the vibe around Robbie in that room, like something special was going on while he was on this run, while he was working his way up there, and it was just like, oh shit, he's got the fight. He's gonna fight Hendricks. And it was awesome. And also, this is also a big time for us because this is when ATT, we really started to raise the run. We were always a top 10, top 5 gym, but now we're really in that top 3, cruising up to ascending to top 1. And at the time, it was Black Zillions was also there at the time. Now Killclef. But so everything's growing around Robbie. I was winning. Not me. King Mo had just come over. He was with Bellator. He's winning, and we have big names winning everywhere. Glover Teixeira came, and we were really rolling. We were the NWO of mixed martial arts. It was great. So now the the Hendricks fight happens. He loses a split decision. Doesn't go his way. He lost that fight in the 5th round. I remember. Give up a takedown. Now, this is where things really got special with Robbie. I felt it was almost like that loss just made. So he loses, and then I think it's not even a week later, Jake Ellenberger needs an opponent. He fights Jake Ellenberger. So again, here I go again training with Robbie because I'm very similar to Jake Ellenberger, both with the double legs and the grappling. And this is a different Robbie now training for Jake. He wasn't accepting any takedowns. He was there to do business. He was still controlled with the sparring aspect, but there was some juice behind his training. There was some momentum, some conviction behind his strikes. Just his energy was up. I'm getting that belt. I was 2 minutes away. Even wrestling with him, he was offensive wrestling a little bit just to try new things. And I just remember shooting in on him, and he just wasn't accepting anything and just beating you up, making you not want to do that again. His hips were so violent. And if for those of you who don't train MMA, you might not know what I'm talking about. What I mean is when I would shoot, he would just sprawl, like give that short stop, that sprawl, and then just slam my head down, maybe not want to shoot. And I remember wrestling with him on Mondays. I'd wrestle with him and Will Brooks. And Will Brooks was on his champion. He was ascending to his championship run at that time too against Michael Chandler and Bellator. And just my neck would be hurting like crazy. And like, man, I gotta spar with this guy though. Robbie, I'm sparring with Robbie Lawler. He's on this run. I still want to be part of it. And then the Ellenberger fight happens, and Jake just has no answer for Robbie. It was amazing. It was like, holy shit. And then we come into the gym on Monday, and Matt Brown needs an opponent. So Robbie Lawler steps in again in 6 weeks. So Robbie's now had like 3 fights in 2.5, 3 months. It was crazy. Maybe 3.5 months. Maybe I'm just getting a little excited. I didn't really train with him a lot for the Matt Brown fight, but that Matt Brown had won like 7 in a row. Everyone was super pumped about that fight. That was another great fight. He wins. The following week, we go back in. Our wrestling coach, Quinn, we need you against the cage again. So he got it again. He's fighting. He's getting the rematch. It was fantastic. So then, we're all training. We're training for his fight. I was actually training for another fight with Titan that was going to happen later. And I'll never forget. I watched the fight. I was waiting at a bar with my friends. I wasn't ordering the UFC. I didn't have no money for that crap. And I was waiting alone. I was training for a fight, so I'm not eating crappy food. I'm not drinking beer. And I remember my friends were late, and I was so mad. I was so mad. But then, we watched the whole fight. Everyone else is drinking. I'm stone cold sober. I'm anxious. I remember I was like, and like, keep in mind, remember, we still have not, American Top Team has not had our UFC champion yet. So we're all just, this buzz around this whole thing was amazing. And like, we're all just texting each other, like, where are you watching? Where are you watching? You got it? All right, I'll talk to you after. And then and then when he won, I always thought I would never be that person that would get crazy excited in public over a sporting event and everything like that. I lost my mind when they called it. I went crazy. And I know people were looking at me. I didn't give a shit. I was just like, yeah, he did it. Oh, it was amazing. And, it was amazing. And then I remember I was able to speak with him the next day. I remember I texted him, congratulations, champ. I'm so happy for you. I didn't expect him to get back to me. And then he called me. He said, I just want to say thank you for all the help over the last couple of years. And that was amazing too. And I remember, just because you get to know people. I got to know his family much more now. But he knows my family, and I just remember like my dad calling me so excited, my mom calling me so excited, and we're just all just calling, texting each other. We're emotional over this. We finally got our champion, and it was Robbie Lawler, and Robbie put that work in, and Robbie was our alpha male. It was great, and I just remember, and then we're not even getting into like the legendary fights he had. The next one he had with Rory, holy crap! I remember after that one happened. Um, we were like, just like, thank God he got the fight. We were shaking. And again, I was fighting the week after that one too. I remember I was like, I don't need this energy right now. And then the fight with Carlos, and then we all know what happened after that. But just being around that, just the thing about the Robbie Lawler being around that run was like, it was like he was on the road to being champion, and the team was rising up too. Like the team just fed off that energy. Everyone wanted to do better. We started winning everywhere. The UFC, Bellator, Risen. There was another one around at the time I can't think of, but and it was just amazing. Uh, and now just he's just now I know Robbie personally, such a great guy, and I'm very very thankful to be around him and everything that happened. That's what I got, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Bye bye.